So let's start it off with the Notre Dame guy and Michael Mayer. Our first one on the agenda. It seems like the consensus top tight end that people have seen come into the league, really, in terms of an all-around full tight end. The full package at tight end. Kyle Pitts was the 4th overall pick just a couple years ago, but he was more of a receiving tight end. Michael Mayer fits all the check marks. Checks every single box in terms of what you want as a tight end, what you want within your offense, an exciting prospect coming into the league who seems like a surefire. While some people have this, ranking of tight ends iffy, Michael Mayer seems like the first-round lock in this position group.
I think the top 2 are a lot closer than some people are willing to admit, but I personally think Michael Mayer is the number 1 in this class. I remember just the first time I ever watched him, scored 2 touchdowns over the middle of the field, running past defenders, made it look easy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got great catch radius. He's a great route runner. He can get into blocks. I mean, he's not a bad blocker. He's going to be he's going to have plus potential at both of those aspects of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is a great player. He's not the athlete that Kyle Pitts is, but he has all of the technical ability, and I think he can be an impact. He'll make an impact right away as a starter on the team that he gets drafted to. He will be a first-round pick.
Yeah, and 6'4", 249, great size of the position, great physicality, surprising versatility. I mean, when you pull it up and you look at where he played, throughout this season, really, as a marking point of recency for him in his game, Michael Mayer had 463 snaps in line. He had 202 snaps in the slot, 69 snaps out wide. 63 snaps out wide, 19 snaps in the backfield. Use him all around the formation, but primarily in line, which is where you want your tight end to be.
Yep.
And even in line, he was a willing blocker, and more so going to become a very trusted target. Very sure hands, and didn't have hardly any drops at Notre Dame. And on DJ's mock board or top 50 mock board, 21st ranked prospect in this year's draft, according to Daniel Jeremiah. So a lot to like in the guy in terms of how they used him and what he was able to do and showcase at Notre Dame.
Yeah. And I mean, we mentioned he's 6'4", 250. He ran a sub 4.5 40 at the combine. I mean, he is a fast man for his size. That's something that is very overlooked with him because you don't really see it. But as I mentioned, when I first watched him, running away from defenders, that's something that is huge at the tight end position, especially at that size. When you can combine speed and size, it is a deadly combo. And, I mean, he really is. He's one of the most productive tight ends in this class, and he is going to be a quarterback's best friend.
Yeah, and it's hard to really find a mock, pro comparison for him.
No, yeah.
Or a pro comp, for Michael Mayer, because he seems like a guy who's coming into it, and it's hard to really find a comparison to what he can end up doing once he gets into the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the one guy that I think of when I see it, it's not a perfect comparison, but maybe a Jason Witten kind of thing. He's an athletic, big tight end.
Witten's a little bigger, but
he's a little bigger than Witten, but the style of play is, I think, very similar. If Witten was coming into the league now compared to when he came in, I think he would have played a very similar role to the role that Mayer's going to be playing come next season.
So Witten, 6'6", 263.
Yep.
It's a little taller, a little bigger than Michael Mayer, but still, that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
So we'll pull up now the film on Michael Mayer. And again, all these plays, just different formation usage out of Michael Mayer. We're going to start with the receiving work, and then in the back end, show some of the pass blocking highlights, run blocking highlights as well, just to get the idea of the dual nature that he's going to bring to an offense within his game. So this first one, kind of in line, a little bit off the, past the line, but still, as a sixth offensive lineman here. Runs out, nice little wheel route, contested catch. Great play by Michael Mayer there. This one in the slot on the left side, quick out route, easy play to a trusted target. I mean, he moved the chains right there. Here, moving around the formation, from pretty much the wing to the slot, wide open drag route over the middle of the field for a touchdown. And here we have him out wide. Lone, receiver on the left side is Michael Mayer. And they go right to him. I mean, he pretty much ran a 6 back to 5 there, and against a cornerback was wide open. And so a lot of these are easy completions.
Yep.
You know, trust the target, easy completion on third down. You know, get the ball to your tight end, and then here's some big plays over the middle for some touchdowns. So a lot of avenues to use him within the passing game within your offense.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen over the past few years there has been a hole at the quarterback position at Notre Dame, and to have a guy like Michael Mayer there to be able to make these kind of plays, make those safe throws, is huge for them and why they've had so much success in the passing game over the past few seasons. Without Michael Mayer, they would not have as many wins as they did because they would not be able to progress the ball up the field as easily as they have been. So NFL teams looking at this and scouting him and seeing what he can do in that area is very beneficial to him. And I think going into a system where he might most likely will have a much better scheme and quarterback, it is going to help him a lot and help him transition in the NFL a lot easier than some others.
Yeah. So now we're at some blocking highlights as well. So there's, again, the dual nature of what he can do. Blocking in the run game, picking up defensive linemen, trying to crash through and get a tackle in the backfield. So he blocks, very willing, a very willing blocker. He's strong, and you can see why with his frame that he's able to just clear out defenders like he did on this play here against Clemson, opening up a lane for his quarterback to get an easy touchdown. So a lot of dual nature with this guy. A lot to like about him, and it's easy to see why a lot of people are enamored with him. But in terms of who's going to draft him, I think he goes somewhere around the 20s, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm looking at teams like the Dallas Cowboys, potentially. Just who else could be involved there? The Chargers.
Chargers are definitely an option
potentially. Buccaneers. A lot of teams within the 20s would really like Michael Mayer within their offense. What are some other teams that you could see as a potential fit?
I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think he is going to go in the 20s, but it's the NFL draft, so you never know. He could sneak into the top 20 if some team is thinking that he's worth it. I mean, your Green Bay Packers, they may need a tight end. You don't know. So that's something. If they stay there or they decide to trade back a little bit, they're a team that could be interested in it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think they're going to have a very shaky quarterback situation. Get a guy like Michael Mayer in that team will be very beneficial. But then, obviously, as you mentioned, Cowboys, Chargers, even the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings are a very interesting one, considering they
just got Hawkinson.
Sorry, not Minnesota. Oh, yeah. Sorry, not Minnesota Vikings. Detroit Lions.
Oh, their second pick. Yes.
Sorry, that's what I meant, because they lost T.J. Hawkinson to the Minnesota Vikings. I think that's someone where if they get exactly what they need with their first pick, and Michael Mayer is still on the board when their second pick comes up, might be something that they go in there because, I mean, Jared Goff showed that he can be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but adding a piece like Michael Mayer in there to replace Hawkinson might be what they need. So that's a team that I'm kind of looking at. I've mocked them drafting him a few times. Still not sure, but they're a team to watch out for Michael Mayer.
Yeah, so for me, I think, what I had in the first two mocks was the Dallas Cowboys, and I think, I don't think you're going to go into the season with Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot as your starting tight ends. They lost Dalton Schultz. They were willing to let him leave for a reason and not bring him back, considering he signed a reasonable deal in free agency with the Houston Texans. So I feel like they have a tight end on their agenda. And is it going to be Mayer, or is it going to be Kincaid, who we'll talk about next?
I think it'll be one of them.
It's going to be Darnell Washington.
Yep.
I do think one of these tight ends will be going to the Dallas Cowboys, and it just depends on which one they like. But I feel like in terms of what Dalton Schultz did with that offense, potentially Michael Mayer will fit that best and replace him.
So if he's available at that pick, I completely agree with you. I think the Cowboys will go tight end. It just depends on who's available. And we've talked, there are a bunch of teams that are available.
Yeah.
Cowboys could be a team that if they really, really, really need that tight end, trade up 2 or 3 spots. Try to get ahead of the Chargers, try to get ahead of the Lions, or right next to the Lions. Because if you can get ahead of at least the Chargers, who are another team that are most likely going to draft a tight end, you at least get one of the top 2 guys. You're guaranteed one of the top 2 guys at that point. So it'll be interesting to see how much they want the tight end.
Yeah, and I mean, so you're talking about, potentially Tampa Bay, Seattle trading back. I could probably see both of those teams. They need picks, and both those teams, Seattle especially, can trade back and get some more players to build around, a playoff caliber team that's, hopefully going to be primed for a deep run. And Tampa Bay, complete roster overhaul, also need more picks. So both those teams could trade back, potentially have the Cowboys move up a little bit on the board.